so this is Suit Yourself. He's Aussie, right? So that's well, like, and the other thing about Suit is what I find interesting is that we actually have same ailment. If I remember right, if it's Suit, yeah, I think it's Suit. We have the same ailment, which is we suffer from chronic pain, right? And what that means is that you're in pain all the time, which is why you see me changing, like, which it must be frustrating to people, right? Like who follow the channel, like, oh, it's half an hour before the show and he's changed the freaking thing. It's the next week or it's tomorrow, the scheduled program. It's because I'm lying there going, I think I need to lay in bed a bit more, because if I sit up, I want to be in too much pain and people are going to see me in pain, gritting my teeth, and then I'm going to enjoy it because I'm going to be, you know, and I'm not going to enjoy talking about it, right? Whatever I'm talking about, because I'm thinking about, I need to get off here. So, but that's it. Yeah. So I think that sort of endears me to him, what he does. But the other thing is, it's funny as hell. But this is, since we're talking about critique, right? You know, criticism, critique. This is a really good video. And the weird thing is, this is, if I remember right, AlphaCore, which is a parody of, right, is written by a very well-known comic writer, right? What's his name? Hold on. Well, whose comics I have, by the way. Yeah, Chuck Dixon, right? And this is only some of the books I have of Chucky's, right? Of Chuck Dixon's, right? So you know, Birds of Prey graphic novels. And so, yeah, so it's really weird to have someone of that renown not think about those things, right? But here.
And you don't feel that the rising crime rate warrants use of inepts on the police force?
It's a chicken and egg proposition, isn't it? Did we experience this level of violence before the hiring of inepts? All these super able cops have done is escalate the conflict. The criminal population feels threatened and responds with greater and greater force.
Well, it's a good thing that we also got Salvage PI out there on the job too.
Yeah, I'll be going after Salvage if he screws up too.
And we're off the air. Good appearance, Diddler. You brought the heat.
Mr. Van Diddler.
Detective Gavison Gaytime, robbery and major crimes. Could we have a word with you?
And so it begins.
And so what begins, sir?
The strong arm tactics. I know how cops work.
This little portion here, I'm going to go back through that again. So this is like Chuck Dixon taking something from that Twitter so-called leftists, right, have said about Batman. And about how, like, if Batman's what's like, it's Batman is causing the crime, like causing all these crazies to come out because he's there, right? It's like the other, you know, it's just like, have a listen to it. This is what I got out of it. I might be wrong, like, for what you guys think.
Chicken and egg proposition, isn't it? It's a chicken and egg proposition, isn't it? Did we experience this level of violence before the hiring of inepts? All these super able cops have done is escalate the conflict. The criminal population feels threatened and responds with greater and greater force.
Well, it's a good thing that we also got Salvage PI out there on the job too.
Yeah, I'll be going after Salvage.
Yeah. So that's what I got there from there. I was like, when I watched it, I was like, it's like straight out of Twitter. You know, the idea that, like, just because you have, it's like saying, it's basically saying, so you got cops, so that means they'll move. It's just making more criminals. That's a weird way to think, right? And it's a real dig. Like, it's not like just, oh, this is what this guy's saying. No, it's like a real dig at the whole idea of that, like, oh, Batman, and that we have superheroes, and therefore the superheroes are what's causing supervillains. Not that there were supervillains, now someone's coming out. Like, it's like there's criminals, now we have cops to stop those criminals, bring order around. It's a very weird, you know, anti-cop kind of thought, or anti-policing kind of thought. It's like the reason we have police is because there's people want things that you have, and they want to take that, and we need someone to bring order to that, because not everybody has the means to bring order or to find justice for themselves. And this is why I find like really strange when people go on, and I'm not saying that every cop's a good cop, right? Because I've met bad cops in my life. I've experienced them, you know, but not every cop is a bad cop, because they're just like every other human being, right? And so just like everybody isn't good, right? Every human isn't good. And so that's why we need someone to police and keep things on the level. And so saying that just because someone's at the police, that means it's raising up more violence isn't the thing. As people are violent, and therefore you need order. And so, yeah, I thought that was kind of, that's what I got. Straight away I was like, looking at this, like, it's a real dig at society trying to, you know, at the policing of criminals and stuff. Anyway, let's go.
If he screws up too.
And we're off the air. Good appearance, Diddler. You brought the heat.
Mr. Van Diddler.
Detective Gavison Gaytime, robbery and major crimes. Could we have a word with you?
And so it begins.
And so what begins, sir?
The strong arm tactics. I know how cops work.
Us not in Flaggsville, they don't.
One of your clients killed another while in custody.
And
And you're not a public defender. Who's paying your fees?
if you'll excuse me, unless of course you
So-
consider me.
That's the other thing. Right? This whole thing is like a dig at policing and stuff, cops, and like it's totally lefty as. And that's a weird thing. Like this is a Ripper Universe comic book, right? AlphaCore, and it's very anti-police, right? Which is kind of like a very, very far left thing, you know, like all ACAB, right? All cops are bastards, right? And yeah, and so it seems weird that you'd have a comic book about police, super police, right? Superpowered police, where you actually are trying to make those your own book, your main characters of your own book, trash, right? And it's weird. Like I would, if I started trashing Incredi-Girl in my comic, you guys would go, "What the hell are you on about, Aru? Like, don't you love your character? Well, I mean, that's your title character. Why?" I would basically, at that point, I'd go, "Yeah, I'm not doing this anymore." Right? But I mean, for me, you know, even if I'm creating villains, I'm going to make them black and white, right? Sure, there'll be some gray areas, but really, you know, especially for Incredi-Girl, which is an all ages comic book, there's got to be black and white, you know, things to it. I mean, sure, there'll be like some interesting, you know, areas where you can go a bit of grays, like, I mean, like, you know, why and what for, but I want my villains to be villains because it's an all ages book, which means whoever's reading is young, right? I mean, not anybody, but, you know, it's made for, mostly aimed for anybody, but like a book you can give to kids. So which is what I mean by, like, you know, if they pick it up, they want to be able to know black and white, right? Moral, immoral stories, right? And so because they're growing up, their brain's going like, okay, I can't, you know, if they're reading a comic book, and I'm not saying that I am creating great, you know, education for the kids. This is entertainment, right? But even so, sometimes there are things that kids, you know, like, why do I still, as an adult, like Batman? Because when I was young, I loved watching Batman, and I knew he was a good guy. I knew Joker was bad. So that sort of thing. So to see, you know, Chuck Dixon in his own title book, AlphaCore, actually write a book that hates its own lead characters, is interesting and very weird. But anyway.
A flight risk.
You're looking black again and younger than ever.
Yeah, look, I don't know what these artists are doing. One moment I'm a black detective, the next I'm a older white detective. I'm a young black detective.
Well, this is the level of consistency we've come to expect from the Ripperverse.
Yeah, this is something I was like thinking, like, just stop here. Like that whole this here.
We've come to expect from the Ripperverse.
Now I'm a young black detective.
Well, this is the level of consistency we've come to expect from the Ripperverse.
And so this is like the why people are so going like, yo, this dude isn't like really a creative person, because and what he's creating is very, CD level, right? E level of work. But because the people who actually are buying his work aren't comic fans, as we say, like people who actually grew up reading comics, who know what good art is, what good storytelling is, what consistency is, and so on. And I know, like I've mentioned like before, that when I did my web comic, that was very, very bad, right? Because it was made for web, right? And I was doing it myself, and I'm not a great illustrator and so forth. That's why I went and got somebody else to do it, right? That's why we redid the whole thing. And that's why you can see this beautiful work with Incredi-Girl #1, the print version, right? So, I mean, the international version, I should say. And so you want things to be consistent, you want things, but the other thing is on the side of like these guys haven't grown up reading comics, or even if they have, a lot of them are only buying these comics is because he's an influencer, because they're his followers. Like this one, like cult. They couldn't, because they come from the YouTube scene, right? They don't know what comics books are good and what's bad, because they haven't experienced anything else outside of that. They've watched the movies and that's it. And now, but the other is like confirmation bias as well. And like I have to think about that myself. Oh, he's saying the same thing I'm saying, so I'm going to support him, right? And but when you turn out, you're like then you find out that he's writing a comic that's basically everything he's railed off against is what he's writing about. And the reason I'm saying that is because the other week, like I was talking to one friend of mine, he's getting so much, negativity for, that he doesn't deserve. I go, well, that just exposed the fact that he does deserve that negativity, because he's not doing consistency even within the panels of his own comic book, the artwork, right? I don't know. And like I said, I take a lot of criticism for my work. I send out copies to make sure that it's right. Even when we, when I'm talking to, talking to my artists, I think, we need to change this. Or what do you think? I actually look outside as well. I go to somebody else and go, well, I'm not really sure about this, but what do you think? Get a third opinion, right? We had a thing where like one of the characters looked like another character, but a younger version. Somebody said that, and I went, oh, it's possible. Could be okay with the coloring. Then another person said it. I went, okay, this is not going to work. We need to change that right now. So I reached out to artists and went, hey, we've got to fix this. Because one person saying is, yeah, okay. Yeah, we could probably fix it. Like I say, we'll fix it in post, right, with the coloring. And then it's like when two people say it's like, nah, go back to the drawing board and let's work it out, right? Because you don't want to get it out there and then people go blah, 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 blah. And next thing you know, oh, shit, like this. And that's what I think a lot of criticism comes from, is the actual work. And that's all you can judge stuff on, right? Is the actual work. You got to judge the work for the work. And, artists, what is that? Subjective, right? It's in the eye of the beholder. But if you're someone who hasn't actually read a friggin' Alan Moore book or a Garth Ennis book or even, I was thinking Kick-Ass, Mark Miller book, right? Or Frank Miller, right? Or a Brian Augustine, Chris Carey. Is it Chris Carey? Mike Carey, Lucifer, right? If you haven't read a good book, that's endeared through time, right? That that's lasted a decade and people still go back to read it, right? Because that's how would you know if it's a good book or not? Because that's why like IMDb, because IMDb, when you go to it, gives you an average, right? Of course, there's like 10 people go, this is the greatest thing ever made, right? 10. Oh, this is the worst thing ever made. 1. So what I do is I go 6 and 5. How many people pick the middle bit? Not the, over positive and over negative, but 5 and 6. And you read them and go, oh, okay, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'll watch it at a 6. At a 5.55, I'll watch it because I see what you're saying. Yes, the budget, allowing for the budget of that. The story, oh yeah, there's a bit of inconsistency, but okay, it doesn't deserve a 10 and it doesn't deserve a 1, right? And I think this, like, influence culture has made, I just had the thought, I just forgot, has watered down quality, both in film criticism and in comic books and in literature, because there are people who really haven't read enough to know, right, what they're talking about or produce what they're talking about. Because one thing about, like, even at 51, I still take criticism from my peers, right? Because I know that if my peers are, because I expect my peers to be honest with me, right? Because I will be just as honest with them. But because when you're trying to put out, because like these are like like I said earlier, these are our babies, right? I mean, for me, like as a creator, these are my babies, right? Incredi-Girl spent years working on it until we got it out last year, right? To the final way, costume design over and over, logo design, reworked over a decade until the final logo was what I decided that's what I want. And I, the icon, the backwards G, right? The IG, so you could see that logo and like that. And so I think because we're honing our skill, the idea is to, the thing is to arrive at a final product that you can stand behind, because it's gone through all the processes, all the negatives, all the positives, all the criticism, all the rework, the redesign, the rewrite, right? I have a file that says Incredi-Girl rewrite, right? Which was like, because I started the book in 2007, with like about 3 issues of it for webcomic, whatever we were working on. There was a lot of, just inconsistencies and stuff. But some of the work, like the panels were really, really cool. And so I was able to go, yeah, we'll use that panel, the settings again, rewrite the script, right? The entire script, rewritten, round up, and then, redesigned the costume, as I mentioned earlier, because at the end of the day, with the final product is what the world will see and will judge you on, right? And so when you're then, when people go, why does that? You know exactly why it does that. Yes, this is my first book as a superhero book. This is the first time we got a colorist, we got an artist, another artist involved. We had to, we did this because of this, and people go, oh, blah, blah, blah. And you go, yeah, I have an answer for that. Because I don't have $1 million budget. I don't even have a $2,000 budget. We just did it from the 0 budget, right? But with that, we're able to achieve this. So, and I think so-called YouTube and influence culture, internet thing, social media personalities, whatever. There's a lot of like fakery behind it, and there's a lot of, with that fakery comes a lot of dishonesty, And also, you know, there's a lot of hype, right? The whole hype idea. And also, one thing I don't personally like about that whole, you know, Eric July is his shitting on crowdfunding, on actual artists and writers of indie comics, because he doesn't know what it is to be a creator, right? See, even as a muso, it's his band that plays the music, right? He's just a singer, and you know, anybody can yell. I've done that myself. I have friends who it's a death metal band. However, there's art to it. I get that, but you know, basically, when you're a creator, it takes time, it takes energy, and a lot of, like I said, a lot of critique, self-censorship, self-criticism of your work consistently. But anyway, you don't want to hear. Let's go, carry on.
Hi. He's taking his sweet time.
I'll check. Gavis,
Where is he?
check the open window. We should have listened when he mentioned flight risk.
Only he didn't fly very far.
Yeah, should we turn around and chase the guy we saw leaving this toilet?
Comic says we don't. Apparently, we'll check the security cameras of this place later on.
Yeah, but the guy is right here now. We could easily catch up to him.
The comic says no. Don't argue with the author of this story, or the artist may draw you as an elderly Chinese man in the upcoming scene.
Okay. Okay, best not tempt fate. Just trying to, you know, do my job, you know.
Your job is to reenact the comic script. That's it. You're not here to play cop, okay?
Okay.
And that's why Eric's going, how's it going, bud? And that's basically why there's all this criticism being sent towards the Ripperverse. And it's deserved, man. Like, just from that, like, you know, Suit parodying that what has been said. Like, and that's not the only time like I've seen that happen. Like, so before I go into that comment, I've got Ross says here, yeah, when I'm drawing at my stall, I face the back of the stall so people can watch me draw. Yeah, I've seen you do that, and it's like really cool, man. Like, I mean, what people watching you draw is awesome, and actually not watching you draw, I mean, like, when you're drawing, that's awesome, right? And then just having people being able to see you do that is just freaking amazing. That's why like I tell like my nephew and whoever else, like, I know you know you can have all this digital drawing and stuff like that, but don't give up the pen and paper, because you know that tactileness to that is a good thing to have, because I think at least 30, 70, 60, 40 is a good way to spend your time when you're drawing, because do it, do your you know, planning and all that, and then go into digital, right? Scan it and put it up in there, and then you can you know, have it so you actually you can color it whatever you want with it, but first do the physical, because having that physical, you know, skill is very important, especially if you're slowly starting out, not slowly starting, first starting out, right? And I think you know, especially with the young ones, right? Like, it's a good thing to tell them, like, just don't go straight into digital, because the way paper works is different to how pens, you know, how your your digital media works, right? Because I mean, I do most everything on digital, right? This is probably the only time I come into physical, because I do my lettering, the design work. I don't even touch a pen and paper when it comes to designing, because I'm all, you know, it's all on my tablet. However, I've spent decades basically doing that on pen and paper because then I know I've trained my eye to see what works, what doesn't work. Now, what's the thing? Oh yeah, so talking about that whole, that bit about, this little bit here, I should say, bring it back up, and then we'll go from there into what I was going to tie this into very, so there's a movie, a Luther, Idris Elba movie, right? Or was it a new series? And they made the same mistake in that movie that this comic here makes in this part, right? How, rather than going to look at the camera, like, and this is different, like this, because it's a similar thing, but it's like it switches it on itself. So rather than in Luther going through the video news items that were there, because they're saying, oh, we don't know who was there. I wonder if he was there. Or, rather than actually going to the news recordings of that, because it's after the fact, not right here, like now, that after the fact, that why don't we just look at the camera? And that really pissed me off. It's like, dude, you're a freaking detective. You should go and look at this, go to the news people and go, hey, can we look at your videos of who was all there in the crowd? Because the guy wasn't a freaking crowd, right? And I'm like thinking, in here, it's like there's one person that walked out of the toilet, right? Earlier on, right? Right. So he walks out right here, right? So one person goes in, one person walks out, and there's nobody else walking out.
He's taking his sweet time.
I'll check.
Right. And then
Gave
they
us.
go in and they find like he's out the window, right? And then so he goes, well, why don't we go and friggin' go after the guy who just came out of it? Maybe he's a guy, right? Maybe he saw something. If he's not the guy, maybe somebody came through the window and threw him out. Maybe he heard something. The witness or the culprit thing, right? But it's just, yeah. And so that's what I mean. Like, so it's not just him, but I mean, like Luther, a TV show did that as well. It's like, why don't we go look at the freaking video? Because this is like a couple months later. Maybe because like it always like there was the criminal returns to the crime, because they just can't help themselves. They want to see if they get found or not. So you could basically catch them, especially if there's cameras around, right? And the guy was standing right there. It was like just so funny. But yeah, I thought that was like interesting. So this is like really made me think about my own writing, right? When I'm telling stories, like, is there some inconsistencies I need to fix? Is there something I need to make sure that as I'm writing, am I not thinking it through enough? But also, that's why, like I say, like even to the last minute, I still go over my work, right?